Hello and welcome to Football Twaddle Fantasy Football Show. My name is Saru, and I have to say upfront that we are recording this again, the first bit of it, because I forgot to press the record button. So we are going to breeze through this whole thing. I had a whole spiel about how I was really bad at FPL. I'm a sort of a ceilings player, and I need someone to tell me the players to take. And to help us with that, we have our good friend Rebant with us. Hi, Rebant.
Hi Saru, thanks for having me.
All right, so first game week done, dusted. FPL has started. Did you just feel like, oh God, why this again? Why do I do this to myself every year?
I did get that feeling after the first day ended. I did not have Salah. I lost out on that 20 or 40 points, whatever way you want to look at it, if you had him
Were,
as a captain.
were, were you not one of the 21,000 people who triple captain Salah or something?
If that would have been great. But yeah, the worst thing about FPL is when you do have a bad game week or a bad start to the game week, the next day is always a killer. You don't want to open the app, you don't want to open Twitter, you don't want to open any social media platform.
Oh man, it's brutal. And I'm part of this WhatsApp group of fantasy. I mean, they don't even let you live, right? You don't forget next day. You can't even be bothered about the next 5 minutes, and it just gets
Yeah, you,
horrible.
you you always have someone who will come up with digs and whatnot on how you had access to so many fantasy stats and whatnot, and ultimately didn't end up having Salah.
I know. So that's what it comes down to. So let's see what's the agenda for this show. We have game week one review, key questions for the short term, game week two games preview, top picks, and captaincy. So let's get to game week one review. The first question is all the stats are fine, Reban. Everything is fine. Just keep Salah in your team and do everything else. Why is it that we choose to ignore this golden rule of FPL?
So I think along with us, 65% of the game, if I'm not wrong, ended up ignoring him. And I kind of know why, at least why I made that decision early on when game week one was about to start. I had the option of either going double Liverpool defense, which I was very, very keen on. But if I would do that, I didn't want to lose out on my sub-premium midfield options like a Heung-min Son or a Kai Havertz, both of whom I have in my team, and I ended up going without Salah. Now I'll discuss those two options later on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't pay off, but again, it's the first game week, and I think three or four of the next five games for Liverpool are away games, and they're not that easy as well. So I'm hoping maybe I cover up a bit
Oh,
over the next 2-3 game weeks.
we'll move to the other game week soon enough, but are you going to say Kai is going to say hi? Like, they did this whole hi Kai thing.
Yeah,
So
it turned out to be more like a buy for me because I saw his ownership and it was quite low, so I was very, very keen that he does well because that would really push me up the rankings, especially after this Salah disaster class. But ultimately, he didn't have that great of a debut. I know people saw it in very different ways. For me, it was some people found him horrendous. I don't think it was that bad, but clearly he needs more time.
Yeah, but I mean, you don't know how he's going to perform in FPL, right? He can be the greatest defensive midfielder on earth. You will never pick him for FPL. So what, like,
Funnily, I saw his heat map and he was quite withdrawn. He was actually, behind some of the central midfielders as well. But I talked to a few of my friends who have seen him play in the Bundesliga, and they told me that he likes to actually carry the ball
yeah.
from the back. Now, does that bode well for my FPL team? Maybe not. So I am looking at exit options on who I can replace him with.
All right. And the next question I have is, does Aubameyang do enough to justify the 12 million price tag? I was all in on Aubameyang. I said, Aubameyang, 12 mil doesn't matter. Fulham, he's going to score a hat trick. I made him my captain and he gave me 14 points. And for a 12 million, that seems like a very hefty price tag for Aubameyang. You think it's justified?
No, yeah, I actually think it's justified. So the moment I realized that he was becoming a midfielder, when I saw the change in classification,
Uh,
I did feel that this is the year to have him right from the start and just hold on to him. The problem with Aubameyang is he's not that consistent when it comes to FPL returns. So someone like a Salah, who is also at a similar price range, has a higher chance of giving you those consistent six and sevens.
Yeah. Reband, one question. In the last year or last FPL season, Who
Yeah.
are the people who gave the highest points, the top five? Do you have that on the top of your list or something?
I don't remember that well, but I do remember Kevin De Bruyne was the number one naturally. Salah, Mane, of course, and I think Jamie Vardy was there as well.
And
Not sure
Aubameyang?
of who. Aubameyang. Oh, just let me pull up that list only for as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
And yeah, so Aubameyang was sixth on the top scorers list with 205. Alexander Arnold at 210, and De Bruyne leading the pack at 250.
Wow. And De Bruyne is like what? What's his price right now?
So he's 11 and a half.
Exactly. So that's my point. You think Aubameyang is worth for 12? Yeah, he scores goals and everything,
So
consistency aside as well.
Aubameyang would also, get those additional clean sheet points, number one, and that additional point for goals. So he definitely goes up from being sixth to someone like a third or a fourth, and if he's lucky, maybe a second as well.
All right.
He
So,
scored 22 goals two times in a row, and with a better team around him, with a better manager around him, the overall structure at Arsenal clearly is improving. It's something you can see.
hmm.
I'm hopeful that he is top three this season.
All right. Since you spoke about defensive points and clean sheet points, my next question: are Arsenal's defensive assets worth pursuing? Who is that guy? Tierney. So Tierney or
Yeah.
even Hector. I don't know. Is Hector Bellerin going to play or not? I have no idea. But at
So
least
there's tough competition for Hector Bellerin's position, but he still is the first choice, I think.
yeah.
Even though
So
I've seen rumors of him, being moving to PSG and the likes.
So,
But as of
did you
now,
see enough evidence in the first week to think that okay, Arsenal can keep a few clean sheets this year?
more than this particular week, over the last 3-4 games that I've seen Arsenal play, there is clearly more composure in the backline. I think it's because we've moved to three at the back. So David Luiz looks way better than he does in a centre back pairing, and I think the defense does look better. The only issue with having someone like a Tierney is that if he doesn't end up playing as the left back or the left wing back, maybe that assist potential slightly goes down.
Okay. And the next thing is, one of the things I saw was I don't know. I generally don't get good feeling watching Crystal Palace play. Right, it always seems just one way or the other. But they had a decent win against Southampton, if I'm not wrong, and Wolves beat Sheffield. Right.
Yeah.
So in terms of FPL, does it really mean anything? Are we again going to start off with Zaha is the best of the rest, so he may be good in FPL and all of that?
No, I think clearly over the years you've seen Zaha has a very limited output, and maybe that changes this year. I'm not denying that it couldn't happen, but I would steer clear of Zaha. In fact, funnily, I advised a couple of my friends to not take Zaha, and he ended up scoring once, and he almost had another goal which got ruled offside, and they were on to me at that very moment. That, what kind of advice are you giving?
Oh, I'm going to put this out on YouTube, so now people know what you look like as well, apart from the audio. So, dude, they're going to like, and I'll give out your Twitter handle as well. Let them you should take all the flack, and I hope Zaha scores a hat trick in the next game just to prove you wrong.
Good.
But, but Wolves, what about Wolves? Raul Jimenez, the usual suspects, leaving Matt Doherty, who's gone to Spurs, right? Oh, Doherty, this not in the slide here, but Doherty had a chance to score a goal where Harry Kane had a dink, and then Doherty like hit it on the volley. That would have been such a great goal. But you can see a lot that Doherty can still do a lot, even in the Spurs shirt. But
yeah, so I was scared that probably doesn't get that kind of a chance under Mourinho. But you could see that the system was such that they were still letting him go ahead and venture forward. That is promising if you have Doherty, even though the rest of the team doesn't really look stable. And suddenly I'm reading news about a potential fallout between Dele Alli and Jose Mourinho. So,
dude, he doesn't need Dele Alli anymore. He's getting Bale and Reguilon. So screw Dele Alli. Bye bye Ali.
it is what it is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I had to remove Dele Alli from my team. I so stupid. I saw that Dele Alli had played well in the preseason. I'm like, ये तो मारेगा, at least assist तो देगा. And then you see what happened. All right, Southampton and Sheffield. Should we be worried about Sheffield without Dean Henderson?
I think we should be worried about Sheffield without Dean Henderson because I don't have the stats ready on me, but I do know for a fact that Dean Henderson was responsible for a lot of chances that could have potentially gone in because he's a fabulous goalkeeper. But at the same time, I didn't actually expect Sheffield to be that open. I think they got killed in the first 45 minutes. First 15 minutes, as a matter of fact. And I didn't have a single player from Sheffield. I was considering having John Egan. Didn't take him ultimately, thankfully, because he ended up giving a 0. But yeah, my guy, Roman Saiz, ended up giving me a 15, so all good.
Yeah, and you know who had John Egan?
You.
This guy. Yeah, and Southampton, when are they losing 9-0 so that they can start playing well and you can take like Danny Ings and just forget about it?
So I think again in case of Southampton, I think they didn't play that bad, but they got crushed on the counter repeatedly. And clearly once they fell 1 goal behind, they were trying to just get that equalizer and ended up again getting countered over and over again. I think in the game there were 2 good chances. One, Che Adams, I think that should have gone in. An amazing chance, an amazing save as a matter of fact. And late on in the game, Kyle Walker-Peters' assist to Danny Ings didn't happen. But yeah, I think there is still room for positivity with respect to Southampton. I'm holding on to them.
Man, Danny Ings. I had Danny Ings. Then I didn't have Trossard. I had Trossard for game week 1 of last year's FPL, and he finally goes and scores a goal now. So I was like, oh god, what's going on here? All right, so now let's look at a few questions which I have, or which I'm assuming are the same questions which a lot of people will have for the short term. Who is the budget striker this year? All the big money players are what? Salah, Aubameyang. So basically your midfield is going to take like 50 to 55 million of your money, right? You have to choose 2 budget strikers. Who are the 2 budget strikers?
So I think number 1, Wilson looks nice to me. 2 key reasons. He's got a lot of new firepower around him. So they've added Ryan Fraser, his old buddy from Bournemouth. You have Saint Maximin, more of a trickster, but maybe he improves his output this season. And in general, I think Newcastle is one of those teams everyone loves to bash them, but they keep just putting up a result somehow.
Yeah,
every season they just make it happen somehow.
That's the Steve Bruce effect.
That's the Steve Bruce effect, exactly.
So yeah, Wilson is a good one. He scored a goal, thankfully. Otherwise, my FPL would have been to a disaster start. Is Danny Ings good for Southampton?
Danny Ings would probably not be a budget striker. He'd be in that budget / right in between premium and budget. So Che Adams again impressed me. I liked what he did, and he played more than I expected him to. My expectation of Che Adams was someone who will end up playing like 60-65 minutes. He ended up being on the pitch for 85 minutes. Will this be a norm going forward? I'm not sure, but yeah, Che Adams for me is the second one. I'm not too convinced by Alexander Mitrovic because I see him in a lot of teams, not because he's a bad player, but I think there's minimal service for him.
I know, but people have a feeling that Mitrovic wasn't his Fulham's highest goal scorer last season as well.
I think he had like 26 goals, but again, Championship to Premier League, it's a different ball game altogether. One more player, budget striker who I do want to see is Ollie Watkins.
Oh,
now
Aston Villa.
Joined Aston Villa.
At 28 million.
Yup. Emi Martinez as well. Aston Villa could actually be really good this season, and I'm positive. I'm hoping they do well. I have a soft corner for them for some
reason. Why? God, because of your eternal love for John Terry or something. So why? Yeah, but look, they spent a lot of money last year as well, and they barely escaped relegation. It was only because of captain, leader, legend they did it, right? And now
he signed a new deal as well.
Yeah, and now they have Ollie Watkins and Martinez, but I don't know who's going to. the biggest thing for Aston Villa is Jack Grealish, right? Him signing a contract extension. So at least,
Huge for them.
yeah. So now we have Grealish assist Watkins goal, but I don't know how likely that is going to happen. But
So Ollie Watkins, if I'm not wrong, has to play 2 games, one friendly against United and then a Carabao Cup game, I believe. He scored in both of those games. Maybe, just maybe, he is the choice to go ahead with. And if you're listening to this, probably you may take advantage of the fact that most people will not want an Aston Villa striker with them.
So now everyone, like the amount of information that's out there, you will see some like 3 million people like having this guy, but whatever, we can't do anything about it. Leeds United, I went through the fixture list. It's tough, but given how they played against Liverpool, I'm sure I'm not going to take any defenders of Leeds because they use their hands more than legs. But you think any of their midfielders or their striker like Patrick Bamford, you think we should give a go at them or have a good look at them or wait for 2-3 weeks and decide?
So I'll be honest, I didn't see Championship at all last season, so my knowledge about Leeds is very, very limited. Patrick Bamford, from what I know, is someone who is quite wasteful and can be frustrating if you own him. So he could potentially be frustrating if you own him.
He's like Tammy Abraham, you're saying.
So again, and in terms of midfield options from Leeds, again, they have a host of players, who are in that 5.5 million category. You have Harrison, then I believe you have their penalty taker. I would still wait before going ahead with anyone from Leeds.
Okay, so you are clearly not very.
I would probably. I do have one Leeds player, that is Ayling. Correct. I'm so sorry if I've pronounced his name incorrectly.
Oh yeah, he was in my substitutes, and I think I'll get him.
I only got him because of the second game week fixture against Fulham. If it works out great, doesn't, I'll move on. It's a 4.5 million defender. I'm not going to fret too much about it.
All right, man. Everton, they look good. I mean, I have to say they look good in the second half. James Rodriguez, dude, some of the touches on the ball. I just want to get him on my team just because he's so good with the football.
Great debut for him, and the only scare for me is that maybe he turns out to be more of a creator than a goal scorer. Now, not that it's a bad thing, but 7.5, maybe you stretch your budget to 8.5, and you get someone like Christian Pulisic. So again, James Rodriguez, I will wait. But yeah, he's not a bad option at all, especially considering the kind of fixtures they have. That's a green run altogether.
Yeah, just a point on Pulisic. Now that Chelsea has this squad depth with Ziyech, Werner, then they have Kai Havertz. They're playing when Ruben Loftus-Cheek was so bad. So I don't know if Pulisic is going to start. So do you really want to spend like 7.5, 8 million keeping on a player you are not sure may start in the game?
He may not start. Maybe the next game week or the game week after that. Long term, I'm pretty sure he is starting first.
All right.
I'm very confident on that.
All right. The question everyone has: should we play the wild card in game week 2? Or game week 3?
I think the wildcard question is very subjective to the team you have made. And I know players who made a team just for game week 1 so that they could, wildcard right after game week 1 ends. I know people who've made these long-term teams till game week 10 or game week 11 and wanting to, wildcard right at the end around game week 15 or 16. So just one reminder to people who are listening, this season, wildcard gets over after game week 16, unlike the usual game week 19.
Okay. Why is that? Is there a reason for, did they give a reason for it? Or?
I think the reason is just because I think game week 16 is when December ends, if I'm not wrong. I'm not too sure on this, so don't quote me anyway.
Are you playing your wildcard game week 2?
No, I'll save it for later.
All right. So let's look at the fixtures for game week 2. And let's start with the last fixture, which is on Monday night or Tuesday early morning for us. Wolves versus Manchester City. This should be just do the usual thing, get in Kevin De Bruyne in your team somehow and forget about this?
I think when you're bringing in a player, don't just play that but one single fixture. Now that's not a bad strategy. A lot of managers implement it very well. They bring in one player for that one game. We can captain him, and if he smashes, you just shoot up your ranks. But you want to play it slow and boring. So even if you're getting Kevin De Bruyne or you're getting someone like Sterling or a Phil Foden, assuming he starts regularly this season, don't have very high expectations right from the get-go. Because Wolves is one fixture, Man City have struggled both times the last season.
Could you look up the next three fixtures of Manchester City? I mean, Wolves, and then who else are they playing?
Sure. So they have Wolves away, followed by Leicester at home, followed by Leeds away, followed by Arsenal home.
Whoa, that's a tough start.
That is not the easiest of start, but I think Leicester at home, they'll crush them. That's what I feel.
Okay.
I don't think Leicester are that solid defensively as we often think they are.
Are you looking at any Man City players to be in your squad?
I am considering Kevin De Bruyne.
Yeah.
That's it. The boring choice, but the safest one, I would say.
All right, let's come to a team with a lot of choices. Manchester United. They were saved, or we were saved from picking any of their players last game week, but we have to make a choice for game week 2. So here are your options: Rashford, Pogba, Bruno, Martial, Mason Greenwood. 5 players you have to pick from. Pick one for me.
If I had to pick one for you and the budget is no bar, I would probably go for Bruno Fernandes. And I'll tell you why. The last game week, I think, and I believe there's been some rule changes which has led to more penalties that will potentially be dished out this season. Some handball rule change. So Bruno Fernandes, he's clearly the number one penalty taker. Maybe they give a random one odd penalty to Rashford when just in case his confidence is down or he's on a goal drought or something like that. Bruno Fernandes is my pick, and the best thing is, he's not going to be rested at all. He's one of those players who will play 90 minutes over and over again.
What do you make of Van der Beek, 7 million?
He could potentially be a very good choice, but does he have the guarantee of starts? Again, that's a question mark over there.
No idea. I mean, I put Pogba in my team, but I've been reading reports of late that Pogba may not start game week 2 and he's just recovered from COVID, and I'm like, oh God, I'm going to waste a transfer on like a player who didn't play in game week 1.
So you kept him to save a transfer later on.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that was your game plan.
Yes. Yeah. And now I'm reading this report which says that Pogba need not start game week 2. So I was like, oh God, this is just bullshit. And I need to change Dele Alli as well. I just have a lot of work to do. All right. Yeah, Pogba. No, go on.
Pogba, okay. So Pogba, I'm not too confident on him. I don't think he's the right asset when you have those options already. Martial and Rashford and Bruno Fernandes. I think these are my top 3. Mason Greenwood, I'm seeing him in a lot of teams. And I think people expect him to continue scoring at the same rate. And there's been a lot of analysis done on this. I won't go too deep on that. But he has numbers which are potentially kind of unsustainable. He's scoring chances that most people would not be able to. Now, whether that is purely down to his finishing skill or this purple patch where he was just going all out.
I actually think it always comes down to the median. And I remember reading about Jamie Vardy. The year when Leicester won the title. If you look at the amount of shots Jamie Vardy's taken, and how many shots went in as a goal, that percentage was at 35% or something, right?
Yeah, which is like unreal.
Yeah. So, and fine. Obviously, it comes down to I don't know about Greenwood's numbers, but if those are the numbers you're looking at, it's safe to assume that it will come down to some realistic number sooner or later. Southampton versus Spurs. I have Dele Alli and Eric Dyer in my team. I am fine with keeping Dyer. I think Spurs have a easier fixture list to the first 6-7 months, and they will keep clean sheets. And I think you had Son in your team, right?
I do have Son in my team. Yes.
Now, are you going to continue with Son, give Spurs like 2 more games before deciding on their players, or you had enough of Spurs?
I didn't like what they did. I didn't like, the showing, as they say. Clearly, there wasn't much of a result for them. But Son, I'm going to keep. I think he's just a very, very good player. Probably, I would probably call him a world class player, but I don't want to get lynched by people who's, so
I'll
he's
call
that
him.
world class.
I support all Asian players. He is world class.
So I have a natural bias towards him, and I got him for the same reason. Again, do remember I got Son, and that is one of the main reasons I don't have Salah in my team. So yeah, that bias got me destroyed. But on this particular, the first game week, I think he was one of the few players who I felt was kind of threatening. Not that he had a great game, but the next few games for Spurs are not too bad. They have Southampton away, so it's difficult. But then again, Southampton is not the kind of team that will sit back. They will also venture out and attack. I think that is where Son can score.
And maybe Gareth Bale starts on the right wing for that weekend, right? So he will create space for Son.
Unlikely, but yeah, because it's just 2-3 days away. And then they have Newcastle at home. So I think 2 fixtures, not too bad, because Southampton will attack and Newcastle at home. If Spurs are going to lose to Newcastle at home, then I would instantly get rid of their assets.
All right. Before I talk about the next fixture, what is dead leg? ये कहाँ से आ गया? Like Timo Werner now is doubtful because of a dead leg.
So, dead leg, from what I understand, it's like like just a cramp. Maybe I could be wrong. If some doctor is listening, or a physiotherapist or someone like that, please do correct.
No, but such people don't listen to this podcast.
So I'm not too worried about Timo Werner. I think he starts, and I think he's got a good chance of scoring.
Against Liverpool?
Yes, 100%. I think Liverpool will push up, and you could clearly see they were trying to, he got caught offside right at the start, I think 2 to 3 times in the first 20 minutes.
Yeah.
He will try to exploit that high line, and it's not that. I think there is room for scoring a goal.
All right, now let's come to top.
Especially Timo Werner has a slight left inclination to him, and Trent Alexander-Arnold is not the best of fullbacks.
I know. I'm talking of Timo.
Best of defenders. Not he's a wonderful fullback. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Timo for playing. I think he was playing what? He was playing for Leipzig, right?
Yep.
He was on the left there. Like at least when I saw Leipzig against Spurs in a few other games, he was generally kind of playing how Son plays for Spurs on the left. So that was his position. But yeah, he looked decent for 7.5 million. But till he gets that first goal, this is going to be an expensive thing.
9.5.
Oh yeah. Man, everyone is so expensive these days. So that leads to my questions for this week. Who are the value buys?
Value buys. Again, I'll go back to Wilson. I think Wilson is a good buy for this game.
Saying Wilson, I paid like 6.5, 7 mil. Isn't that what his that's a value buy now?
Who is a value buy for you? I'm counting a value buy as a budget player who gives that odd return every one out of 3 game weeks or so. I think he can do it.
That way, yes. Wilson can do it. Yeah, and he's like 7 million, which is on an average for a decent player.
Yup.
Right.
6.5.
6.5, yeah. So yeah,
so
I get
that's
it.
There. Then I think
Ollie
Watkins. Who does Villa play this game week? So they have Sheffield United at home. Yeah. And we saw what Sheffield United were doing.
Yeah,
Ollie Watkins could be a very good option.
I'm getting in Ollie Watkins, and I'm getting you back on Game Week 3 preview. And if he doesn't do it, I'll come to your house and record this episode with you. All right. So, and what are the must-have assets for Game Week 2? Absolutely must-have.
Aubameyang is a must-have asset, I think, for Game Week 2. I know you are not a big fan, but yeah, it is.
No, I am. Here's the question. Arsenal is playing West Ham, right?
Yep.
We know West Ham is going to get beaten.
Yep.
That's like
hopefully.
No, they will. Come on. If you can't beat West Ham, then at this point, like with Mark Noble is also frustrated, right?
Yeah, they have some dressing room issue also going on, if I'm not wrong.
Exactly. So let's say
So,
Arsenal play West Ham
yep,
and Liverpool play Chelsea, whose defense is quite bad. If you've seen the Brighton game, Brighton had enough chances. It's
correct.
just that,
And I think there's a clear instruction given to players who are leading the line or attacking when it comes to Chelsea is to take shots from outside the box. I think they just know that confidence is extremely low. I don't think Kepa is that bad of a keeper, but I think his morale is completely in the gutter.
yeah, which is sad. And
Which is sad, but it is okay.
yeah, having considered all of that, right? You know, Salah's going to get chances. You know, Oba is going to get chances. Both
Yep.
are 12.5 million. Who is a must-have for game week 2 among these two?
Between these two, maybe I'm biased, but I'll go with Oba. Number one home fixture
Hmm.
against a much worse team. I think that's like you have the player in form, you have the fixture in favor. That should be enough to
This is in
swing
spite of
captaincy at least.
this is in spite of Salah's goal. Did you see that second goal? He just shot the ball straight, and the
Yeah.
power. Oh my God!
So unfortunately, I knew Salah would score, right? I knew he would score once. Maybe he gives an odd assist as well. So I had capped it around 10, 11 points of loss.
Hmm.
I was ready to take that kind of a beating on him.
Yeah, but you
It
didn't do too
starts,
bad. You did 59 points in game week 1,
yeah, Sai's rescued me.
so you're going to keep him for like 15 game weeks. The Indian
Yeah,
model
yeah.
of cricket selection.
I think they showed immense great numbers defensively. Wolves, that is, post the restart. So
Yeah.
I was very keen on having at least one Wolves defender. And right till the very end, I think a day or two before the deadline, I had Vinagre. But then rumors started coming up a week or so before that, and I just got cold feet. I said I'll not keep him. Let me just spend that extra 0.5 on a nailed-on defender. Saiz is one of those attacking defenders. I checked numbers over the last season. Players, who have more chances in the box or are
Hmm.
stronger in the air. Just an odd goal or something that comes out of it, and like amazingly, Sai scores in the first game week. In fact, he had multiple chances of scoring more goals than just one.
So, like size, who else is there in your analysis?
Like Sai's, unfortunately, there are not many people because centre backs usually will not attack. But Van Dijk again, he will score 3 to 4 goals out of a corner in a season. Let me just bring up his numbers once for me, and because I am pretty sure Van Dijk scored like 4 goals maybe. Let me
Last
just check.
season.
Last season, yep.
Didn't he already
Va-
score one this season?
Van Dijk scored 5. Yeah, he scored on his in the first game week.
Yeah,
So Van Dijk scored 5 last season. I expect him to score 4 to 5 again.
this season.
Yep.
All right. So let's talk about the last thing for this captaincy choices. I'm sure Aubameyang is a nailed down captaincy choice. How
Yep.
about Jamie Vardy? They're playing Burnley.
He's a
Vardy-
great choice. What
Vardy.
worried me about Vardy was, so again, back to numbers. Vardy had 2 shots on the goal. Both of those shots were the penalty, the spot kicks that he took.
Hmm.
So the numbers outside of that, I didn't frankly like them. But again, it's a new fixture. Burnley is one of those teams. I really like Burnley. I think they will again keep a decent number of clean sheets. But if Leicester has to win this, and Vardy is a good option, I think.
and
It's a differential option, I would say.
and Manchester United. How about an outfield option like Martial or Bruno?
For me, like I said, 3 standout options from Man United: Rashford, Bruno Fernandes, and Martial. Martial has amazing home numbers, like some of the best in the league. So if you have him and you want to just take that other path, I would probably go with Martial. One thing that interests me is that Rashford on the left is against Joel Ward on the right for Crystal Palace. Ward is a very bad defender,
Yeah.
and Rashford maybe earns himself a penalty because he's damn fast, and he earned quite a few penalties last season as well.
Okay, so from whatever you're saying, what I'm taking away is kick out Dele Alli. Don't play the wild card. Get in Bruno Fernandes. I should probably take a -4 hit for Pogba and replace him with Bruno. And yeah,
I would play Pogba just for that 1 week instead of taking him. Maybe he scores a long ranger. You never know. So I'd be patient.
I've had that experience with Alexis Sanchez of Manchester United, so I know the pain. All right. All right. Thanks a lot, Rebant. And all of you listeners, you've seen the league code and our handles below, and I will put out Rebant's handle as well. Rebant, thanks a lot. Best of luck for game week 2.
Thank you so much. Same to you, except I hope Pogba doesn't score.
So please, I'm at 44. Give me like something.
Actually, to be very, very honest, Pogba can score. Not many people have him because he's a bad choice.
Yes, and I will make him work. All right, man. Thanks a lot for coming in and see you soon.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.